Richard, welcome onto the show. We love a nice comeback and failure story. So tell us about what happened in 2009.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good story. Yeah, I'll tell you, I had 20 years of business. I was a custom water feature builder. I did steel sculpture. I'm an internationally recognized steel sculptor. All these things, right? And before that, I'm a champion boxer, a black belt. I'm doing all this great stuff, right? Built a great business, I thought, until 0809 hits, right? And November 5th of 2008, day after the election, I lost $500,000, half a million, okay, in a day. And I kind of hung up the phone after the last call, people canceling stuff. I'm like, man, I think this might be over. So we lived through part of '09 and it just wasn't going to happen. I tried some things to keep things going and it just dried up so bad I had no opportunity. Now at this time I had my wife and six small children, 4 years and younger. Okay. Now I lost my business, I lost my house. Okay, we had to relocate. I had to get rid of everything I had. Really done with water feature business, right? I built over 1,000 of them. So again, I was top of my field, best TV, magazines, you name it, radio, whatever, all the stuff I was in, and it just kind of disappeared overnight, just evaporated. And the big thing, Elon, the big key to what happened at that point was, I've got these six little kids, and I'm laying in bed when I wake up. This is in '09. I'm like, man, I'm always business first. It's everything. It's just that's how I succeed. My identity was wrapped up in that, and that's what I do. And I started thinking about my kids again. And I'm like, you know, they really don't care like what I do for work, what kind of truck I drive, or how many trucks I have. All this stuff, right? Where we live, they don't care. They don't care what kind of house we have. And I'm like, man, if I stay on this business first and making these kind of bad decisions because I'm trying to, boost, keep my own ego out front, my kids are going to grow up, and because more is caught than taught with kids. Okay, so you can tell them all the right things, but they're only going to do what they see, right? So I'm like, man, I'm going to ruin their futures. They're going to have broken marriages and failed relationships, and maybe they'll be good at business, right? So literally, I'm like, I got up and went in the office and said, we're done today, and I shut everything down. I'm like, no more, we're done. I went to my construction yard, same guys for 10 years working for me. We literally had our last cup of coffee, and I'm like, guys, we can't do this anymore. I'm done. I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I couldn't do that. So yeah, I lost the home, lost all the business, relocated to Wisconsin from Chicago, and had to start over, and didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I couldn't do what I did. Okay. I'm kind of an all or nothing guy. I don't really keep one foot in something, which in hindsight, that might have been a good idea because I owned all my equipment. I could have kept some and like done some side work, made some money and do that. But for me, that doesn't make me do the next thing. If you're still dabbling in something, you can't let go. You can't commit to the next thing fully. So my real thing was like, well, what do I want to do? So well, I love to train people, right? I love fitness and boxing, all this stuff. So I go to an Anytime Fitness and I get a trainer job. They don't even have trainers because they're trying to. And I build this whole program, build this. Next thing you know, I'm trainer of the year. Okay, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. So, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So that means go open a gym. Okay, so I started my own boot camp style training gym, did that, scaled it up. It was awesome. Had a great time with that. Then built another construction business. I did roofing, siding, windows, and did well with that. And then I said, wow, people started asking me, Elon, like, well, how'd you go from all of that to nothing back to like succeeding again, man? Wasn't that hard? And I'm like, yeah, it was hard. But what are you doing? Like with your business? And I started to listen. I'm like, oh, you're doing the same wrong things I did. So I started helping people. And I said, I think I'll write a book about this. So I wrote Escape the Owner Prison, and it became a bestseller. So I built an academy around that, started coaching people. Because mentoring is fun, but it's for free. So it's being strictly coaching, you get paid. So I'm an entrepreneur. Well, I'm going to coach, so I get paid to do this, and I can really help people. And so I did that, launched that, went through a few iterations, and man, we're here today. We're sharpening the spear, coaching, and I'm happy. I mean, that's a condensed version, but that's pretty much what it was.
Richard, you said you lost $500,000 in one day. I can't imagine how tough that is. All that hard work. I wouldn't say gone to waste necessarily because in hindsight you ended up building the business, but for the short term, you didn't know what the future looked like. How did you keep a mindset of not giving up and wanting to keep pushing forward and despite that extreme loss that you took.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people kill themselves over those kind of losses. If you think about it, I mean, people for less. You know, I'm a pretty optimistic guy, like almost to the annoyance of my wife. Okay, so but I'm like, I don't know. It's a combination of how we grew up in the Marine Corps. Okay, that mindset. It's just kind of this not never defeated. If you're breathing, you're in the fight. Okay, if you can take a breath, you're in the fight. And I'm like, I just don't have this like. I didn't understand this at the time, Elon. Like failure, like failure. I did it innately, but like failure was just like a learning lesson. You know, quitting is different. I always define the two. Quitting is like disgraceful. Okay. I failed. There was no, I didn't have an option to quit. I was done. Okay. So there's a difference. I didn't like quit. I'm like, there's nothing here. I'm done. I have to, do this thing. So I think I used that to propel me forward. It took me a little while to adjust on where I wanted to really go. Now, to be totally clear, like I wanted to be a trainer, right? But you know how I really wanted to train people? Let's go to the woods, man. I'm gonna drag you through creeks. We're gonna be in trees. We're gonna do some hardcore stuff, right? Yeah, that never happened. Okay, I'm at Anytime Fitness. Okay, like training people that open a boot camp style gym. So in my mind, I was going to create this great thing, which that didn't happen. But everything that did happen, it's like you said, Elon. That breaking point for me, in hindsight, was the only that had to happen. Okay, because here's what happens. I learned that my identity was my business, right? So like without my Rick Rock hat, shirt, and rap truck, I was nobody. And what I realized that day, like I told you, that epiphany, I'm like, I will never let a business own me again. It will only serve me. I will not serve it. And so I'm like, I literally have like a video of me burning all my uniforms in the bonfire in the back. I'm like, Brand, just toss them out like never again. I'll never do that again. So when I opened the gym, I told people, well, we're homeschooling our kids right now. They're like 5 years old, 6, 4, 3, all that. And I'm like, if my wife needs me at home, I want to be there in 15 minutes. That was like my starting point to build a business. How do I build a business so I can do that? And that became systemization, process, delegating, all this other really cool stuff. So in my mind, I'm like, I just focused on the next thing, how to do it right. Because failure sucks, but I can overcome that because that's just that business. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I spent 20 years and I built and I did all kinds of stuff, but the mindset was like, let's do it right now. Because I did a whole lot of wrong things. I was really good at making money, really good at being in the public eye, building great things, doing things that no one else could do and getting all the accolades for it. But what I wasn't good is the business part because I thought business is making money. You got a news flash. It's not. It's the easiest thing you can do in business is make money. That's the easy part of business. Everything else is hard. Accounting, taxes, all the marketing, all this other stuff. Making money, piece of cake. But everything else, man, because it's drudgery. I'm an artist. I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm all this stuff that is not want to get into the books, so to speak, right? So I learned you need to get the right people to do that because I'm never going to like that. Okay, I'm never going to embrace it. I'm like, this sucks. Someone else has to do it. Okay, so with that mindset, I could then drive forward and start to craft what I was doing. So I approached it very differently than my first business. My first business was, again, just feed my own ego for 20 years. So that's kind of how I powered through, I guess.
Sure. On the Inside the Firm podcast, you mentioned something that I thought was very interesting. You said usually when a business isn't making money, it's because the owner's in its own way. Like it's the reason, the owner's the reason, it's the bottleneck essentially. So kind of going beyond entrepreneurship and just from a day-to-day life, we'll say, how can people recognize when they might be getting in their own way? Because it's hard to know what you don't know. So how can people be opened up to it?
I call it outside eyes. You got to bring in outside eyes. Like that's what I do as a coach, right? I come in, I have no emotional attachment to your business. Listen, if you built a business from scratch, you bust in your hump for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Like I can come in and go, oh, that, yeah, this wrong. You got to fix that, fix this. And we turn it around instantly as long as that owner is coachable, right? But sometimes you got to start in a little different direction. Like, let me go fix some problems first. Because I already know it's the owner that's the problem. He's the big problem. Okay. But people don't like to fix themselves. Okay. So we go and I get results and like fix some tactical issues, Then we start working strategically and then we start talking about the owner. Then they start to see. So I have to build that trust with the owner himself, right? I can't just come in and say, I'm the guy. Let me fix you. Okay. As an I didn't I wouldn't take any help for my first 20 years. And I had billionaires giving me advice because they like me. I mean, what do you know? You just own professional sports teams and manufacturing plants, and you don't build water features. Man, I'm the man. I mean, Elon, that's the level of stupid I operated at those first 20 years. So no one's immune to this stuff, right? So that's how we really try to help the owners. And they're always, no matter, I don't care if you're doing 25 million, 100 million a year, you're going to be the problem at some point. You may be less of a problem, but there's always that clearing we have to do. We need that introspection, that ability to have that or have other people like point things out and take it serious. And obviously when they point it out, this is the difference between like a coach and a consultant. I'm a coach. We're gonna get it done. There's teachers and trainers. I'm a trainer. Right? Teacher's gonna tell you like how to do push-ups, and he's gonna leave the room and tell you to do 25. I'm going to tell you how to do push-ups. I'm going to get on my face with you. I'm going to start banging them out with you. I'm going to get up. I'm going to finish count to 25, and then we're going to go to the next thing, right? I'm going to make sure I'm there so you get it done, right? That's kind of the difference.
Yeah, I love what you talk about. One thing that stood out to me was this idea, and I totally resonate with it, of the fact that when you're in something, it's hard to see, you know, introspectively what you might be doing wrong, and that's why it's important to bring other people, like you mentioned. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, a big reason for that could be because of how much work you put in, how much effort you've done, and something that I kind of just thought about was on the Brink podcast, you mentioned that if you have work ethic, you'll never go hungry again. Could you talk about what that means?
Yeah, so you got to be willing to get a little dirty. I mean, that could be literal or figurative. You got to sweat. You got to put work into your business, right? You can't be afraid of it. You can't create a level, even in your business, where you get so comfortable, because comfort's death. Okay, it literally, through study, it shortens your lifespan. Think about that. And you're talking in America, you are so comfortable. You can control the temperature everywhere. Your biggest gap of discomfort is walking from the house to the car. Okay, it's like, oh, it's hot out, and then you turn on the AC and you drive to the office, and you spend another 25 seconds walking to the office. You know what I mean? So like, there's no real discomfort in your life, and you have to be able to put yourself in those positions continuously. Like, you have to embrace like doing hard things, right? That's difficulty. So it's really important. Again, when you get complacent, you start to level off in your business. And the reality is there's no maintenance. There's no such thing. It's forward or backwards. There's only two directions any business, anyone's life goes. It goes forward or backwards. That's it. So you just got to choose which way you want to go. I don't care if you go backwards. Sink the whole ship. I don't care. It's your ship. You know what I mean? But if you want to go forward, I don't mean you got to become Amazon or something. What I mean is you got to continue to innovate, right? Improve your people, level them up, bring them up, right? Do the right things. How do you engage better and better with your clients and your customers, right? How do you improve your service or product? How do you keep doing this stuff? How do you keep continue to gain market share even at a small percentage, but it's still growing? That's the key.
For sure, Richard. And I even think a lot of people, I think sometimes you might need to go backwards in order to go forward. But when people stay complacent and they stand in the same spot, they think it's the same spot, which is comfort, but they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And I mean, I'm not a business guy, you know what I mean? But I've talked to a lot of very successful people, so I'm starting to kind of understand this, and it's super interesting because it's it's a little bit of an unsettling feeling thinking that if you're going to start a business, you can't ever be comfortable, right? But I feel like that's the thing. Like that's what keeps people going. That's what keeps people so excited about, starting the business to begin with. Richard, last question for you. You have had so many experiences in so many different avenues of your life. What, other than the '09 and '08 catastrophe that you had to go through, what has been the thing that has got you to the place where you're at right now, success wise?
Probably my family. Not probably, it is, right? So it's another level of responsibility, right? Six kids, a wife, all this stuff, have nothing, got to create something, and not to give them stuff. It's not about giving them, hey, I buy them all a car and everything else. We got a lot of cars in the driveway, but but the goal is not that. It's how do I show them how to live, right? Like, remember, more is caught than taught. Like they have to see that. And I'll give you a great example. My oldest son now is in the Marine Corps, right? So he was home last January. We did a podcast together. We were guests on a podcast because they want to talk to him about his experience growing up. And I got to sit there and he did most of the talking. But to hear the things as he described his childhood and everything and why he does what he does and everything else. So I just had to like, wow, that's really amazing. Like I think I helped that a little bit. That's cool. But like what they've become and how they think, how they do, you know what I mean? Their forward thing. I'm like, that's cool. That's what I can truly like give, right? So I don't, that so I think that was the real driving thing. Beyond all business is great, accomplishment is great, success is great, world likewise, money and all that stuff. But man, when you influence others, that's where the power is. The power is not in money, and more cars and more trucks and more buildings and everything else. It's all in the ability to influence people in the right way, right? To me, that's worth way more than any gold in the world.
Richard, dude, you're awesome. Where can people find you at?
Sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Go there and do what you got to do.
Do what you gotta do. For all my listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want a way to support me, click the link in the show notes. You can go join my community. It's a way to thank me for everything I do. I'm not sponsored. I don't get paid to do any of this. I know what I signed up for, but if you wanted to support the mission, I would really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next Tuesday.